Alrighty, good morning, simulation farmers. Welcome back to another episode of To Be Real. I'm your host, Charm. Today, we're going to try to keep the intro short and sweet. Usually, I give you guys the longest catch up on my life. This episode is going to be all about building momentum. We have gone over knowing whether something is soul aligned or ego driven, something that you want to pursue. We've talked about how to figure out whether the things that are causing you to kind of be stuck and not be able to move forward in the way that you want are subconscious blocks, or whether it's a sign of redirection. And then we've also talked about moving from the associative to the autonomous phase of learning something new. And so we talked about releasing attachment and the power of releasing attachment in order to be able to get our manifestations rolling, to start actually taking action on the things that we desire to create in our lives. And that's where this episode comes in. It's going to be all about building momentum. I have never considered myself someone that is consistent with anything. I have started and stopped this podcast for years. I've tried to prove to myself that I'm somebody that can be consistent. However, I'm always flip-flopping between this idea, and I'm such a dreamer. When I discovered podcasting as a sophomore in college, I became obsessed and I was like, I need one of these some of these days. Like, I knew I was meant to have a podcast. I thought it would be more so like in my 40s after I was a lot more studied and whatever. But here we are now. I'm 28. I've tried doing this on and off for 3 years. And for the first time in my life, I'm able to show up in the way that I knew I had the capacity to do. But not just show up, build momentum in a way that honestly, I've only ever done one other time in my life. Yeah, even though I can only really say that I've built momentum in two very specific ways, and that's all I have under my belt. I have a lot of experience of not being able to build momentum. And so it was very easy for me to sit down and figure out exactly what things were totally different about the two times that I was able to build momentum and stay consistent. And so that is what this episode is going to be all about, how to build momentum in any aspect of your life. That being said, let's get right into the episode. Okay, first, you have to understand that your mind, your attention, your reticular activating system, it all is based off of your set of values. I only recently heard about this when I was listening to an episode on the Know Thyself podcast with Dr. John Demartini. And I guess that's part of his main research, like understanding value system and helping people understand their own value system. And what he was talking about was how when he was learning how to speed read in order to be able to, read as much as possible, he realized that some books would put him to sleep and some books just got him so excited and so awake. We've all experienced that. Some things are just so incredibly boring. And, as soon as you start, it's just like, ugh, I just can't. And versus other things, for some reason, they keep you energized and focused and awake. And so his secret was he would switch between a book that kept him really awake and really excited, and then a book that was kind of boring, and he would do 20 minutes of each. But then he talked about that when he realized that the reason why the books that kept him awake aligned with the thing that he valued most, and he talks about what his main value is, he realized that if he could tie anything that he did to that value system, to that thing that he valued most, all of a sudden his reticular activating system, the thing that allows him to focus on something, would be activated and he would be alert and awake. So if you want to build momentum in something, you have to first tie it to what you value most. A lot of us do this subconsciously. We get excited about something, and it's because subconsciously we know that it is aligned with our values. We are naturally excited about it. And so in terms of pursuing something that you genuinely desire to do, and that's why I mentioned the previous episodes that kind of have to do with pursuing something that you desire or that you feel is so aligned, because these things tend to be something that is already aligned with our values. However, if you have not necessarily gotten clear about what that value is, sometimes you get lost in the sauce. Things get a little slow, things get a little bit hard, and you let it go. And it might always be in the back of your mind, but you haven't figured out how to build momentum in this area because your mind hasn't made that connection of, no, this is something that we are doing come hell or high water. It's something that we value and is tied to one of our deepest rooted things that we want to accomplish or that we care about in life. When you get clear on this, you are no longer having to fight your, reptile brain to I don't know, that's probably not the right term, but you're no longer having to fight the natural things that might disrupt your focus and attention that keeps you from building momentum. Your mind already knows, no, this is something we're going after. It aligns perfectly with the things that I value most. And so it on its own already giving you the capacity to focus on this in a way that you might not normally be able to get yourself to focus on or be motivated to pursue. And so we've talked about in previous episodes how your emotions are the thing that charge your manifestation. They get the ball rolling. They are energy in motion. They propel your manifestation forwards. And so a step that must be mentioned is that you need to get excited. You need to feel a powerful emotion about completing this thing. And that's something that connecting it to what you value will also do for you. As soon as you understand that this is something that you value and is tied to what you value most in this life, you get excited. You start building that emotion. And therefore you are quite literally adding energy and momentum in this direction. We've already gotten the ball rolling. Passion, excitement, enthusiasm. That's the spark. That's the thing that ignites it. We can't live our life based off of passion. It comes and goes. It's just an emotion. Commitment, dedication, persistence, consistency. That is the ember that keeps the fire alive. The slow and steady burn. Brianna Weiss talks about this a lot in her book, 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. And so how do we activate that commitment, that dedication, that drive to continue even when things get tough? You set a goal that is just outside of your level of reach. Like maybe you can do it, but also you're going to have to push yourself and do something really different for you to achieve this. But also make it time bound. Make it something that is generally going to push you to your limits, and you know it is. But also that you know is probably only going to be for 3 to 6 months, and then you can relax a little bit. You know that you're not going to burn yourself out even when you're, really, really tired. You're like, it's okay. I'm almost there. I'm almost at the finish line. I'm not planning to go this hard 5 years. I'm only going to go this hard maybe a month, 3 months, 6 months. But you know that you are going to push yourself. And so the two things that I said I have under my belt in terms of being consistent is yoga and now recording. When I started yoga, I accidentally did this. For me, I was always really excited about yoga because something about it just called me. It felt aligned with spirituality and personal growth and getting in tune with yourself. And, these spiritual practices that have been around for centuries really call to me and really draw me. And this desire to prove to myself that I could be consistent was also very valuable to me. So I decided I am going to do a 30-day challenge for, every single month of this year. And my first 30-day challenge was yoga. It aligned with my values. I decided I was going to go to yoga every single day for 30 days. Mind you, I'm not a gym girly. I wasn't regularly exercising. I didn't have any kind of stamina, but I decided I'm going to show up for these classes every single day. It aligned with my values. I set for myself a challenging goal, but not too challenging that I couldn't do it. If I just took it a day at a time, I could probably pull this off, honestly. And then it was time bound, 30 days. I'm not saying that I have to do it every single day for the rest of my life. For 30 days, I will show up. And so that's when continuous consistency, persistent consistency comes into play. And the reason why you really want to push yourself for this specific amount of time is because the more often you do something, one, the more your neural pathways begin to deepen in this area, and it becomes something that is more naturally ingrained in you and something that is easier for you to accomplish. But also you are quite literally building momentum because you are pushing yourself to do something consistently and pushing yourself to a capacity that is outside of something that you are even sure that you can do. That seems kind of obvious. If you want to build momentum, do something consistently. But typically when we're starting something new, we view consistency as maybe record once a week, maybe record twice a week. And that's great. That is a goal, but that's not going to really push you. That's very doable. There's 7 days in the week. You can accomplish 2 videos per week. But here's the problem with that. When we set for ourselves a goal that doesn't really push us, because it is a goal that we are setting, we expect to get some sort of specific result. And a lot of times we underestimate how much time, work, and effort actually would take for you to get the kind of results that you desire. And we overestimate how quickly we will get there. And so a month goes by, 2 months go by, and you've made maybe 8 episodes, 16 episodes, and you're like, what the fuck? I've been doing this for 2 months. I've made 16 episodes. Why am I not getting better? Why is the ball not rolling? You have not pushed hard or long enough to get the ball rolling, to actually build momentum. You're kind of pushing it a little bit today, pushing it a little bit maybe after tomorrow. You're starting and stopping. You're starting and stopping. Literally just like thinking in terms of physics. You are not doing anything to actually build momentum. But when you do something consistently every single day, you're really pushing yourself to reach a goal that you are going to have to give it 110% to possibly be able to reach, but still possible. You are getting more and more experience under your belt. You are experiencing more and more failures. You're getting comfortable with failures. You're learning from each failure. You're literally just acquiring more data. You're acquiring more practice. At the end of my 30 days of yoga, I had made so much progress, like an insane amount of progress. And by the end of 3 months, it seemed like I had been doing this for at least a year because I wasn't showing up 1 or 2 days a week. In the first month, I technically did show up every single day besides 2. I missed like 3 classes because I was late, but I showed up. I went. I did my best. The other 2, it was literally out of sheer exhaustion. I had never worked out consistently a day in my life. And so my body said, no, I love that you're trying. However, this is not, physically possible for us. But I was so comfortable. It was something that just became a part of my daily routine. Yes, I show up, I go. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to decide, well, am I going to do it today? Or I guess I could just do it tomorrow. I only said I was going to go 2 or 3 times a week, so I could skip today. That's fine. If I'm aiming to go 30 days in a month and the month has 31 days, you don't really have a choice to take that many days off or else you're not going to reach the 30 days simply because it's time bound and the month only has 31 days and you're saying you're going to go 30 days. But that consistent effort, that consistent concerted effort, literally just by the laws of physics, creates momentum. The next thing about building momentum and something that we need to really be conscious about is to focus on the process, not the outcome. To focus on the day-to-day, not the goal. If you focus on the day-to-day and you say to yourself, I'm going to show up for 30 days, you do not need to focus on the goal of, I'm going to show up for 30 days. You just need to focus on, I'm going today. I'm going today. I'm also going today. Today for 30 days. You do that. You focus on today 30 days in a row. You are going to accomplish your goal. Sometimes, if the goal seems so out of reach, something that we've never tried before, focusing on the goal makes us feel that much smaller. It paralyzes us in a way. We start questioning our ability, like, am I really going to be able to do this? And once you start questioning yourself, you lose the momentum in terms of losing belief in yourself. However, when you focus on the day-to-day, 1, you can show up with presence. 2, you can show up with excitement because you're like, I'm adding that little star on today. I accomplished today. You can feel excited about today. And then that becomes the energy that you infuse your practice with. You're not dragging your feet because you're like, fuck, I have to make it to 30 days. I have to make it to 30 days. You're like, today I did it. Today I did it. By the end of the 30 days, you are in the, I've done it. I've accomplished it. Not thank God I fucking made it to 30 days. I've never exercised a day in my life and I just pushed myself to do 30 days. You're taking aligned action while focusing on the present moment and imbuing the present moment with as much joy and appreciation and excitement for the process that will get you there. When you focus on the process, you fall in love with the daily actions that it will take to get there, which is what you need to fall in love with if you want to be consistent long-term, not just after these 30 days, not just after you accomplish this goal. You need to fall in love with the process. I think they say that someone that loves walking will always walk further than someone that, is an expert walker. That's not the quote. But the point is that when you love something, your ability to endure, your ability to try after you fail, your ability to get back up again becomes greater. You've given yourself another tool. You've fallen in love with the process. And speaking of things that are going to challenge you and that are going to, make you want to quit and that it would help a lot if it's one, connected to your value system, and two, you fall in love with the process, are setbacks. Setbacks and failures. A little earlier, I mentioned that, when you do something very, very consistently and regularly, you're going to experience a lot more failures and you're going to learn a lot more, a lot faster. Why? Because failure and setbacks are a natural part of the process. And that is something that you need to remember when you are focusing on building momentum in any direction or in any desire or anything that you're trying to accomplish. I had this idea for building momentum maybe a week back. I knew sort of what I wanted to talk about, but in a very vague way. I started writing and I was like, okay, I have things to say about this. Anyways, I got distracted and I picked up my phone and I went to Spotify and an episode got recommended to me. It's from the Tom Nodsky podcast. I think he's Irish or from the UK or something like that. And I didn't follow his podcast. Now I do, but it recommended that to me. And I just so happened to click it. It didn't say anything about building momentum in the episode title, but it was interesting to me. And I clicked it. And all of a sudden he talks about starting to build momentum. And it's a lot of the things that I'm saying. And he also adds one more thing that I was like, fuck yeah, I need to include that inside of my podcast episode. What I had written was expect setbacks and missing the mark as part of the game. And what he said, because his whole podcast is about, building your own business, and I think specifically online businesses, he said something along the lines of setbacks and failures are not a bug. It's a feature. And I was like, yes. Setbacks and failures are not something that you need to fight against. They're not something that you need to be pissed off and irritated and feel like they're a sign that you need to stop. They're just part of the process. And when you can remember that, your momentum does not get slowed or stopped by things going wrong. This morning, prior to this episode, I re-recorded an episode that I was working on editing last night. And I was like, no, it's just not it. I'm going to re-record it. I went to re-record that episode, and in order to make space on my little SD chip, I deleted part of an episode that I had yet to upload on my laptop. Then, because that happened, I'm now, behind technically on my schedule, my recording schedule. And then I started to record, and construction started happening at the park. And so I left and I went to a neighborhood, and then the garbage truck decided to come back. And so I left and I went back to the park, and then the same garbage truck decided to come by, and then they left and I started to record, and my battery overheated and I had to pause. First of all, I had already cried after I deleted a little bit of that other episode that I hadn't, downloaded onto my laptop first. And I tried to record and I tried to start this episode like 5-6 times. And I was like, actually, I just need to pause. I need to cry because I'm really fucking sad about this. Because that wasn't an episode that I needed to redo. I really liked it, but I accidentally deleted it. I cried a little bit. I got myself together. I was like, we're here now. It's fine. I'm not behind on my schedule. I'm simply here where I am now. And this is part of the game. I am obsessed with Emma Chamberlain. I've watched her for years and years and years. And I cannot tell you how many times she gets on here and she's like, all of my footage just got deleted. Oh, I'm so irritated. All of my footage got deleted. Something happened. This footage is gone. Like, oh, I'm so bummed. And I was like, this is just part of the game. This is something that I want to do full time and I want to do as my career. And I need to start getting a little bit comfortable with the idea and the reality of the fact that sometimes footage that I was happy with, proud of, whatever, got deleted and I'm going to have to re-record it. It happens. It's part of the game. I was so frustrated this morning. I was so fucking frustrated until I remembered setbacks are part of the game. I choose to record in my car. Therefore, I'm going to experience a lot of background noises. The rest of the world continues to live. It's garbage day for this neighborhood. Therefore, I'm going to experience some garbage trucks. I went and I parked under a tree. The crows decided to have an intellectual debate on God knows what and literally would not shut the fuck up. And I was like, it's part of the game. I have chosen to record in my car. And so therefore, animals. There was a dog barking earlier. People walking by, people playing their music, construction going on, garbage trucks going by and disrupting the flow, whatever, the sound. It's part of the game. I'm not viewing them as setbacks, and they're not preventing me from moving forward with what I've set my eyes on doing, the goal that I set for myself, because they're expected natural aspects of the process. You gotta expect them. They are a feature, not a bug. It's not something that you need to get rid of and beat yourself up because it keeps happening or because this happens. You learn, you move on. Why? Because no one gets it right 100% of the time. That is a delusional way of thinking, and I love that for you. But if that is your way of going about something, you are going to experience a very harsh reality, because the truth about life is that it's good and bad, light and dark, two sides of the same coin to make one. You don't get to get away from the difficult, tough aspects of life. And honestly, you don't want to. That is where you build grit. That is where you learn the lessons that you could only learn from failure. There's things that you can only learn from failure that you would never learn from success. What did I learn about this episode that I accidentally deleted? Download the footage as soon as you're done. I let that footage sit there for 4 days and I kept putting it off and I kept putting it off. I accidentally deleted it. What did I learn? That's not optional. As soon as it's done, download it. In terms of re-recording episodes, I didn't even blink about having to do that at this point. I think the first time it happened, I was like, and I had to re-record the episode like 3 times and I was like, I think this is like the 4th episode that I've had to re-record in the last like 15 days that I've been recording. I don't even blink. I'm like, oh, not this episode, my bad. The last episode that I did. I don't even blink at it. It's happened so many times. I'm like, yep, this is just something that happens. Sometimes you have to re-record an episode. I remember at one point I had set for myself a goal to record 2 episodes in a day. Originally, my goal was to record 1 episode, and I got super tied up on it. This episode that I had to re-record several times, that was the episode that I had tried to record twice in 1 day. I realized I had externalized my power in terms of being so attached to the idea that I had to prove to myself that I was good enough and worthy by recording 2 episodes. The second I realized that, noticed that, that's the episode that somehow was saved, kept. My camera even told me that it was about to die, which is what it had not been doing. And that's how my camera was dying on me and just deleting the episode. And so I've learned to not really be attached to it. The other day I had some extra time and I was like, I've yet to successfully record 2 episodes in a day, but whatever. I definitely have the time. Let's record 3 today. And I did. One of those episodes I went to edit and I was like, I don't like this. Let's re-record it. It's part of the game. I don't even blink twice. I was like, okay, somehow, some way I'm going to have to catch back up. Maybe that means another day that I'm going to also have to record 2 episodes, but I'm going to take care of this one that I didn't really like, do my best to catch up and record the one that I had intended to record yesterday, but I didn't. I was like, okay, we're here now. Let's go. 1, I'm not giving up on this. I value this. I decided when I got back from my sister's house that I was going to do my absolute best to record as much as possible, because in my mind, I was like, the only way that I'm going to move from the associative to autonomous phase is by continuing to do this as much as possible. I just haven't done this enough in order to be able to be at the level that I want to get into. I underestimated how much time, effort, and dedication it would take me to get here, and I overestimated my capacity to do it in, to get great at it in 6 months, a year, 3 years. I have to do this as much as possible. As soon as I decided that, somehow I was able to come back, sit down. All of a sudden, I'm recording in the way that I've always wanted to record. I'm like, okay, it's not just about recording as much as possible. Let me give myself a specific goal that I am aiming for. It's not for anybody else to know, but I know what I'm aiming for. It started with an episode every single day. It's pushing me in a way that I have never pushed myself before. Now I'm at the point where I'm recording 3 episodes in a day, when at one point recording 3 in a week was the most exhausting thing I could have ever imagined and experienced. I would literally get burnt out. I think I did that for like 2-3 weeks back in March or something. And I stopped. It was too much. It was literally too much. Again, tying it to your value system, pushing yourself harder than you've ever pushed yourself before for a specific amount of time with an actual goal in mind. Accepting that setbacks and failures are part of the game. When you're about to level up in a video game, there is that, big monster that you have to come up against. But when you win, you get the treasure chest, you get the nugget of gold. There are things that you can only gather from difficult situations, because any situation that you face with fear head on or any situation that feels bigger than you, that you have to face somehow, some way, has a piece of your power wrapped up in it. And the only way to reclaim that power and therefore, reintegrate that power and literally be more powerful than you were before because you took back your power, the only way to do that is to literally face it head on and accept that this is trying to teach you and give you something that nothing else could give you. You embrace it. Having to re-record several times and all that stuff set me a little bit behind on my schedule. And so the day came where I was like, if I want to get back on schedule, I need to record 3 today. I have the time, let's do it. Certain things can only be taught to you by failure. Embrace it. Fall in love with it. Get excited about what it is that you're going to learn. How it is that that's going to add to your toolkit and your tool belt of what you are now capable of doing and overcoming. You literally have more data. You are now more capable. And you do this. You follow this process. And trust me, you will see an insane amount of momentum and growth. And by the time you finish and reach your goal, you will have given yourself something that nothing else except for a concerted effort and building momentum could have given you. A toolkit that has expanded exponentially because you showed up at 100x versus 2x. You'll have built a work ethic. You'll have had enough time to build the energetic, emotional momentum of getting excited. You fell in love with the process. You did this so many times that, you learned so many things and you're excited about how far you've gotten, how good you've gotten. I just went back and kind of reviewed the first few episodes that I recorded and I was like, that feels like so long ago. It's been 2 weeks, but that feels so fucking long ago. I've grown and accomplished so much in that time. It's been 2 weeks. Imagine what 30 days, 60 days, 100 days, however many days, imagine what that will do. You make a real dent in your progress when you follow these steps. And you are not cutting any corners. That's the biggest aspect of this. The lessons that you learned were not learned by any kind of shortcut. You actually did more work, gathered more data, built more resilience, figured out how to overcome more things. And so your toolkit is not based off of, something that you learned on YouTube and something that you've practiced once or twice. And, maybe you found some software that helps you do it more quickly. No. You have built this toolkit without cutting any corners. And so now everything gets erased, everything gets deleted. No one can take away from you what is within you, what you have amassed, the knowledge that you have amassed while doing this. If you want to get out ahead of yourself and build momentum and get the ball rolling and see some progress in anything that you're trying to accomplish, follow these steps. That is how you build momentum. I have 2 things under my belt. That's not a lot of things. However, you can listen to this episode and know, oh yeah, I understand why that works. These are the steps. Utilize them. You want to make something happen in your life? Make it happen. You can. I believe in you. Your higher self believes in you. Now it's time for you to start believing in you. That is the end of this episode. I have to go to work. Thank you so much again for tuning in. I hope you really enjoyed it. I had so much fun recording it. I hope that you tune in for the next episode. I'm so grateful for you guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me on, building the dream life that I would like to experience. And I hope that I'm bringing to you guys the kind of value that would make you want to like, comment, and subscribe, that would make you want to share this content. That is my goal. That is something that I deeply, deeply value. And so I will continue to show up for you guys. And thank you for showing up for me. Anyways, I love you so much. I hope to see you in my next episode. Love you. Bye.